Hi, everyone, and welcome to a Legislative Update with Andrea Schroeder. We have a new episode. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, how are you, Matt?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks very much.
Good, good. The main thing you wanted to talk about, because this is what's going on in your world right now, is kind of the budgets and the budget process.
Right.
And it sounds like it's a fairly intricate one. So kind of walk us through how that process goes.
Okay, so when we create the budget, and everything is about budget now, you know, we had up for the last couple of months, we've been working on reducing auto insurance rates, and that kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the room.
Sure.
Which is good, we got some reforms done, but now we really need to focus on the budgets. Everyone really would have liked to have had them done at the beginning of June, and we'd certainly like to have them completed by the end of June, especially because our school districts, they have to have their budgets done.
Sure.
And so
People
we'd
forget
like
the
to
school
be,
year has that,
right.
doesn't operate on the calendar
Right.
cycle.
There's a different calendar cycle for budget cycles, which is an unfortunate part of our government. So we really would like to try to get the schools so that they know where they are without having to guess and having to budget too conservatively or anything like that. So, so the governor presented her budget in March, and I think the Senate budgets were all sent out in April. And then ours just came out in the House. Most of them came out a couple of weeks ago and then last week. So this week we're looking in the House on, we're caucusing a lot, we're talking a lot about the different pieces of the budget and moving it out of the House. And even if it's an imperfect form, you know, talking about what are some of the tweaks we want to have before we put it to a vote on the floor. And then we'll vote it out of the House. But even when we vote something out of the House, when we vote the budget out of the House, it's not necessarily saying this is the greatest end all of the budget. At that point, we can move it into conference committee, and the point of getting it out of the House is just to move the process forward. And when you go into conference committee, we can have work groups that'll work on specific areas of the budget, different areas that we think are important that people have been talking a lot about. But it concludes both chambers. So you've got senators and members of the House working together. And also, you know, people from the governor's office are included in conversations. So the whole idea in conference committee is you kind of cobble something together, and then a new budget bill comes out of there, and we vote on that. And it's important to note that our budget bill is an omnibus bill, so it's one big major bill. It's not voting on each of the different sections of the bill or the different.
It's a big collective budget rather than just like for thinking of the township, rather than a department budget. It's the township budget.
That's exactly how the process is on the legislative side. So, so we're looking forward to getting that done, kind of assigning some work groups. Either tomorrow or probably Wednesday, we'll have it voted out of the House, so all of that work can happen. And there's no real deadline on it, but like I said, we'd like to get something done for the schools, at least, you know, kind of get to where we can say where are we on schools, so we can say this is a good general area.
I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of at various stages you kind of know, like, well, this piece is pretty finite and this piece is pretty set. It's these ones that might shift or adjust a little bit.
Might have differences, or how we fund things might be different from one to the other. I will say two of the important things that are in our House budget that I really wanted to see were in K-12 education. Number one was maintaining the 2X formula, which is a way of funding the lower funded schools faster. And both Clarkston and Waterford schools are at the bottom of that scale. So it's really important for our district to have that 2X funding. And the other thing was it removes, keeps the school aid fund primarily for K-12 funding. So those were some of the priorities. And we've got some other budget priorities. There's some things that are in there that I don't like. But you know, we'll see what actually comes out of the whole rest of the process. So I think the big message to people is that it's a process and we're working on it, and so we'll see what happens.
How many, just broad strokes, kind of, how much money does this budget deal with, and how many kind of different hands kind of does get to touch the budget on some way?
So the budget proposals come out of appropriations committees, and in the legislature, you either work on policy or you work on appropriations. I am not on appropriations. All of 5 of my committees are policy committees. So I was not part of this appropriations process, and God bless the people that are, because they're the ones, and then, so you can be on the appropriations committee, and then there are all the subcommittees. There'll be a K-12, there'll be college and university funding, there'll be transportation, there's military and veterans affairs, et cetera, et cetera. And each of those subcommittees says, okay, if this is our overall budget, and say our budget's going to be somewhere in the $58 to $60 billion.
Sure.
This is our budget, this is what's allocated in this area, what do we really need, and what are our funding priorities? And then each of those appropriations sends out their bills, and everybody kind of talks about what we want to see with that.
So it's a lot of money and a lot of people that are...
A lot of money, a lot of people,
Right.
a lot of budget analysis, and that's just on our side. Same thing happens
Right.
in the Senate. And I'm sure the same thing happens in the governor's office with her executives and her budget people. So,
Sure.
So it is a process, and unfortunately, you can't rush it if you want
Right.
it to look, if you want to come up with a good budget. We are breaking for this summer, but
It's a little different than the high schoolers' experience.
Yes.
You guys don't get to go home and hang
yes.
out?
No,
It's not a
I don't
true
get
summer
to,
break like the high
yeah,
school
I don't
kids?
get to sleep in till the crack of noon, like certain high schooler in my house. But no, it's a little bit different. So right now we're tentatively scheduled, we're on schedule for this week in session, tentatively scheduled for the next couple of weeks. But that doesn't mean that all 148 legislators have to be in Lansing for work to be getting done. Like I said, we could have work groups and they can be called in and we just go in with your work group. And if we have a budget that comes together, then you can call the House or you can call the Senate and everyone can go in and vote on it without having to have the expense of everybody having to be there the whole entire time.
So rather than kind of have a regular meeting schedule, it's a little more like, when we have enough stuff to discuss, let's meet. Aside from that, let's kind of work more in smaller
Or the
groups.
people that are in work groups or the people that are on separate or in the conference committee, they have different work times and everything. And the rest of us are working in our districts. And that's the whole thing. It's not, it's important to note that the office is always open.
Sure.
So that when somebody has a question, a call, a concern, just like any other time of the year, Gabby and Joe are in the office is open. I'll be going in sometimes, but a lot of my time is going to be spent in district. And this is the time when you get to do things like walk in the parades and go to the
More
festivals.
face-to-face time.
More face-to-face time and really be with the people in the community, going to soccer games, going to movies in the moonlight in Waterford, or going to concerts in the park in Clarkston, where you really get to have a lot of time to interact with people, because it's hard
Sure.
when we're in session to find the time to be able to do that, running back and forth from Lansing, getting to meetings late, trying to take
Sure.
15 minutes of time because you have somewhere else you need to be. So it's nice in the summertime to have.
Well, I think
this.
those face-to-faces are really important too, because
Oh, yeah.
sometimes someone can present a problem that you may just be unaware of or didn't realize, oh, I didn't think by doing X it would affect these people in this way. When you
Exactly.
get to hear those stories, you get to take that knowledge back and kind of go, here's maybe how we need to adjust this, or here's what we need to keep in mind when we're doing this, those kinds of things.
Exactly, and we also spend a lot of time going door to door versus when you're in a campaign season. When we go to door now, we're saying, here are the things that I'm working on. What are some of your concerns? Because
Right.
until you knock on those doors and you meet the people and the faces behind those doors, you don't know what's going on. A lot of people are reluctant to reach out and ask for help or just ask a question.
Sure.
So it's, to me, I love going door to door. There are a lot of people that don't like doing doors, and I just think it's fascinating, some of the people that I get to meet.
sure.
And it's really an effective way to meet the people that I'm representing. So that's really a lot of what my summer, what I'm going to do on my summer vacation.
Gotcha. Well, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I know we have a graphic with some of your office hours, but if you could kind of tell the audience what your office hours are.
We have office hours coming up on June 21st from 2 to 3:30 at the Waterford Township Hall. So I hope you can show up and bring your questions or your concerns, and I'm looking forward to meeting you there.
Was there anything else before we wrap up the show today?
I think that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have the time for this time. See you guys later.